Hello, today we will take a look at cymatics, a fascinating branch of science which explores the impact of sound on matter. We are going to explore how sound and vibration shape everything there is, including you and me. Welcome to Wonderology Department.
And they say you scientists are supposed to be smart.
The year 2007 was a tough one for me. I lost everything that gave meaning to my life. Fortunately, I didn't lose my life itself. I was living in a small studio apartment, thinking about what to do with the rest of my life. In the background, I had a television on, Discovery Channel. The program was about Roslyn Chapel, which became a world-famous landmark when Dan Brown mentioned it in his novel The Da Vinci Code. The chapel from the 15th century has a rich history, but is primarily known for its elaborate and complex ornaments with symbolism that still stirs the imagination of various interpreters. The chapel is heavily decorated with ornate carvings and designs throughout its interior. An incredibly interesting feature is the 213 cubes and 13 angel musicians that protrude from the 14 pillars and 12 pointed arches in the ceiling, decorated with a selection of patterns. In the same year, Thomas Mitchell, a musical teacher and RAF veteran of the Korean War, and his son Stuart, a pianist and composer, released the culmination of what have been 27 years of research into the musical significance of many of the carvings featured within Roslyn Chapel. They claimed that they recognized the patterns carved into these cubes were reminiscent of the patterns found in cymatics, so they translated them into a music composition called the Roslyn Motet. I'd never heard of cymatics before, but along with this, they also showed an experiment with a Chladni plate and violin bow. I was completely captivated. In the very next moment, I placed a speaker from my sound system on the floor, stretched plastic foil over it, poured some desert sand onto it, and turned on the music. The recordings you are watching, I made them that day. This was my first cymatics experiment. In the following years, I began to delve intensively into this remarkable physical phenomenon, which influenced my perception of life and creation just as powerfully as music itself. When we hear sound, we usually think of it as something immaterial. But sound is movement, a force as well, and force always leaves traces. In the late 18th century, Ernst Chladni was among the first to show this in a way that could not be ignored. By sprinkling sand on thin metal plates and setting them into vibration with a violin bow, he revealed something extraordinary, that sound creates structure. The sand did not move randomly. It organized itself into complex patterns. Invisible waves became visible geometry. Through vibration, order emerged from chaos. Chladni's figures show that sound does not merely emerge from matter. It interacts with it and gives it shape as well. But it was also something more, a glimpse into the hidden architecture beneath appearances. Sound was no longer just something we hear. It was something that shapes, constructs, builds. Chladni was so impressed that he started systematically exploring the impact of sound frequencies on matter. And his inquiry resulted in his book Discoveries in the Theory of Sound, published in 1787. Today he is known as the father of acoustics. More than a century later, Swiss physician and natural scientist Hans Jenny returned to Chladni's forgotten experiments and pushed them much further. Using quartz crystal oscillators and precise frequency generators, Jenny animated powders, liquids and pastes into complex living patterns. He called this field cymatics, from the Greek chyma, meaning wave. What Jenny discovered was unsettling in its simplicity. Pure tones, simple sine waves, were enough to generate complex forms that mirrored nature itself. Vibrating materials in his experiments started to reveal to him cell divisions, fluid vortices, the morphology of plants and animals, spiral galaxies. As frequency increased, complexity increased. As amplitude rose, matter became turbulent, explosive, alive. Jenny described this as a triadic phenomenon underlying everything there is. Vibration as a generative ground, with form and motion as its two opposite poles. The shape of the patterns in nature should be understood as a result of the movement of their inner energy fields, in resonance with their environment. It's an infinite and irreducibly complex feedback loop, with no rigid boundary between organisms and their natural environment. Just as Chladni had, Jenny spent the rest of his life exploring this fascinating interplay between vibrations and matter, which opened for him a completely new way of seeing and hearing what we called reality. In the final chapter of his book, he wrote, "When we observe cymatic phenomena, our phenomenology requires our eyes, ears, and brain. In this enterprise, we bring our mental powers into play. We train and tutor our cognitive capacities of perception, observation, comprehension, and insight." Resonance occurs when one vibrating system awakens another. A string begins to sing because a neighboring string is already in motion. This principle extends far beyond musical instruments. In complex systems, resonance causes pulsation and rotation, interference and correlation, integration and individuation. When mathematician Ralph Abraham discovered cymatics and started with his own experiments, he describes reality itself as an excitable field, capable of sustaining vibratory patterns in space and time. In his view, understanding is not the transmission of information, but synchronization of the vibratory fields of our consciousness with other vibratory fields in the cosmos. Patterns recognize patterns, and learning becomes resonance. This helps explain why Chladni figures resemble biological forms, why cymatics patterns echo morphogenesis, and why rhythm organizes not only sound, but life itself. Perhaps consciousness itself is a resonant phenomenon, an open channel between individual awareness and larger information fields. To be conscious may simply mean to be in tune. Everything that exists pulses. Atoms, cells, organisms, machines, cities, stars and planets, and probably the universe itself. French thinkers, anthropologist André Louis-Gourhan and sociologist Henri Lefebvre understood culture as a web of rhythms, technical, social, biological, and symbolic. The rhythm of the clock has structured our sense of time. The rhythm of our walk has structured our sense of distance and space. The rhythm of our hands has structured the tools we use. The rhythm of music and breathing gave us a pathway to altered states of consciousness. From the rhythm of the hammer to the rhythm of music, we transform the world and ourselves. Cymatics makes this visible. When grains of sand dance into form, they show us what the rhythm of vibration has always been doing silently. Not chaos restrained by order, but invisible order born from rhythmic movement. The formative style of nature in all its aspects, including our life, is rhythmic, periodic, and cyclic. Everything flows in rhythms and patterns. Seeing it that way, every truly living person realizes we are a mysterious living symphony. We are not simple beings. We are verbs, not nouns, processes, not persons. We are becoming all the time, and if we are aware of it, our consciousness is becoming fuller, wider, richer, and clearer. Cymatic does not give us definite answers, but it gives us images powerful enough to change how we listen, how we perceive, and how we imagine what is not yet known. Wonder begins when we stop thinking about the material world as a solid and objective, and rather start perceiving it as a complex dance where mind and matter emerge from the resonant and harmonious interplay between different frequencies. Because long before we learned to speak, the world was already singing, and it still is. Cymatics reveals to us the fundamental principles of systemic theory and its quest for a holistic vision of the universe. In the vibrational field, it can be easily shown that every particle in the system is, in its true sense, implicated in the whole. We may therefore regard matter as being constituted by the regions of the universe, where the fields are extremely interwoven and intense. When Ernst Chladni was struck by his experiment with a metal-plated violin bow and a fistful of salt and started to systematically study them, he ended up with the first comprehensive book on acoustics. When Hans Jenny rediscovered his work, he spent the rest of his life on further investigations of vibrational phenomena, which led him to write a book and make the first documentary film about this fascinating phenomenon. When Alexander Lauterwasser, a German philosopher, photographer and turtle lover, discovered the work of Hans Jenny, he started with his own experiments. When he noticed the incredible resemblance between a particular Chladni figure and the structure of a turtle shell, he started to see cymatics patterns everywhere in nature and wrote another 3 books on the subject. When Thomas and Stuart Mitchell started to interpret Rosslyn Chapel ornaments as cymatic patterns, they wrote another book on that topic and composed a motet based on their interpretation. When mathematician Ralph Abraham discovered cymatics, he proposed his own concept of consciousness as a vibratory field. And when I discovered it almost 20 years ago, my fascination led to many hours of video, some articles, performances, exhibition installations, and the episode you're just watching. Thank you for your visit of Wonderology Department. In the next episode, we will continue our exploration of sound and music. I'm going to take you into my world of pneumophone wind harps enjoy the fascinating instruments playing by nature itself. Stay tuned, subscribe, and join our Wonder Tribe.